Thanks so much for everyone joining on schedule. So we've just put in the agenda in the chat. So really happy to have everyone here. And Ruth Crammon is going to open for us from United Way of Greater Toronto.
Thanks, Jessica, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking some time to be with us tonight. I'm the Vice President of Investment and Development at United Way, and we're very excited to welcome you to this session. We always start anything we do with our land acknowledgement and acknowledging that we're all coming from different parts of the GTA, which is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit. And we also in York Region work with our partners, the Chippewas of Georgina Island. So we're looking at tonight at how we welcome newcomers and how we are all settlers on this land and pay homage to the first peoples of Canada. So yeah, we're really, as I said, very pleased. United Way and the Peel Newcomer Strategy Team, really happy to be hosting this webinar tonight with our partners, COSTI Immigrant Services and Volunteer MBC. We all know how challenging it is for newcomers settling in a new home. And we know, especially right now, one of the biggest challenges and barriers to settlement is housing. So we've been happy to support the COSTI Host Program at United Way and through this webinar and through our funding. But I really just want to take my hat off to all of you who have expressed some interest and joined us tonight, because I think this program really represents all that is best about our community and our region, with the idea that people are actually willing to consider opening their homes and their hearts to newcomers to help people get started here. And whether or not you feel the program is right for you at the end of the evening, it just speaks to your generosity that you've joined us tonight and that you're thinking about this and thinking about those who are struggling to find a new home in Canada and to find a safe place to live. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jessica Quick, who leads our Peel Newcomer Strategy Team. And Jessica, you can take us through the rest of the agenda.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And I think we all feel some resonance with your words in terms of finding ways in terms of how we can help these newcomers who are coming, and in this case for the Ukrainians coming from situations where we are reading about it in the paper, and this is one way that we can all support. We have a few slides just to provide a little bit of context. I'm sure everyone's quite familiar, but just to get everyone on the same page. It really will set the stage in terms of the arriving Ukrainians, some coordination of supports, as well as other ways we can help. And the COSTI Host Program being the focus today, but there will be other ways to help through volunteering that will also be mentioned later on in the session. Great, so we'll go to the next slide just to describe the arriving Ukrainians. So as I'm sure all of you know, the federal government has introduced this temporary visa pathway called the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel. And it really helps expedite Ukrainian nationals to find safety in Canada. They come for work, for study, and for visits up to 3 years on this visa. And a number have taken the opportunity to apply. As you see here, over 600,000, and about half of those have been approved already. And we're already seeing many arrive. So since January, over 87,000 have arrived by air, and another 10 or 15,000 have arrived by land. And we may think that it's just women and children, but what we're hearing is that there are men and people of all ages, from children right up to seniors, who are coming. And obviously lots of connections here in Canada, but also through in Ukraine. So they want to keep that temporary status. Moving on to the next slide, just to mention that, as you know, different levels of government have been coordinating for essential support. So thinking about income, there is some limited income support for individual Ukrainians as well as children. They have access to OHIP in Ontario, childcare, employment, and settlement services. So it's really great to see that there is further coordination at the regional level. Many service providers come together in Durham, York, Toronto, Peel, to really see where we can support emerging needs. And I think this is where this webinar came out of, is really thinking, how can we support where housing is that pinch point, and how can we engage residents who are Canadian citizens to bring out really their generosity where possible and provide that opportunity. And so for the final slide, I'll just mention that there are different ways to support. We'll hear from Volunteer MBC about some volunteer postings and other availabilities through other volunteer. Markham, I believe, will be speaking as well. There's ways to financially donate. As mentioned by Ruth, United Way of Greater Toronto supports COSTI's Host Program. So COSTI's web portal is also there if you'd like to support directly. At the national level, Operation Ukrainian Safe Haven is distributing funds to the regional levels as well. And of course, there's the cultural associations such as the Ukrainian Canadian Congress, and they provide avenues for donations of items as well, such as winter clothing, boots, and kitchen essentials. So their web portal is also listed there, as well as their email. And they actually have two sites in Toronto, one in Toronto proper and one in Etobicoke, to help Ukrainians with those items. So I'm going to leave it there. If there are any questions, please feel free to use the chat box. And I'm really pleased to introduce Yasmin Dosal from COSTI Immigrant Services, who's the director of the host program, as well as Tanaz Pardwala, who will be speaking about the host program. And then we'll be hearing from two hosts with their experience. So I'm going to turn it over to Yasmin and Dosal now.
Thanks, Jessica, for that introduction. And Tanaz will basically be doing the main presentation and give you an overview of our project and the work that we do with the host families. Tanaz, on to you.
Thanks, Yasmin. Thanks, Jessica. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see so many boxes on Zoom. Happy to have you all here. I'm glad to have the turnout. I also want to thank, as Jessica mentioned, we do have two individuals online right now, Cyrus and Jennifer. They both have already hosted. They are currently hosting Ukrainian families in their homes. So they will give you a firsthand account of how that has gone for them, how that experience has been for them. I'll just give you a few details of COSTI, first of all, and how this host program works. Okay, so just to give you an idea as to who COSTI is, first of all, for those who may not be familiar, COSTI was founded in 1952, so we are a well-established organization. We just recently celebrated our 70th anniversary. And as a community-based organization, we provide employment, educational, settlement, service, skills training, and social services to Canadians, new Canadians, and individuals in need of assistance. Our organization is fairly large. We have over 500 people working with the organization, speaking more than 70 languages, and a roster of 180 volunteers. Our head office is based in Toronto, but we do operate from 17 different locations throughout the GTA. So we have offices in Peel, in Vaughan, Durham, and Toronto. And we receive, to support all of our programming, we receive funds from all three levels of government, the federal government, the province, as well as the municipalities, as well as United Way, of course, and from various foundations. So that's a little bit background about who we are and what we do. For our mission, our goal is to empower people from diverse communities to succeed and achieve their full potential by providing educational, employment, and social services. We strive to ensure that all individuals, regardless of language, culture, or financial barriers, are given the opportunity to use their existing skills, learn new ones, and participate in all aspects of Canadian life. The goal is to, or the vision, a prosperous and inclusive Canada built on the success of every individual. So having said that, a lot of the work that COSTI does is with immigrants, newcomers, refugees arriving in Canada. Adding to what Jessica mentioned about the Ukrainians, I will say that the Canadian government has developed a program specifically for Ukrainians interested in arriving and coming to Canada. But this designation means essentially that Ukrainians are not coming to Canada as refugees. That's an important factor to keep in mind, or a distinction, because as a refugee, when an individual is designated as a refugee and they come to Canada, they are one of two things. They are either a government-assisted refugee and receiving support for a year plus with the federal government, or they are coming as a privately sponsored refugee, in which case they are supported also for a year, but by private individuals. So as Ukrainians are not designated as refugees, they do not receive the same level of support as a refugee would. Instead, they are coming under this special status, which is the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel, Q8, which was established by the federal government specifically to address this crisis that has just emerged this year in the Ukraine. And with the Q8 visa, Ukrainians are allowed to come and stay in Canada. A few more details. So any Ukraine national can apply for the program. The government has not put any cap on the number of applications they will receive. So once again, anyone and everyone with a Ukrainian passport or Ukrainian national is eligible to apply. And right now, from what we're hearing, there have about a 98 or 99% approval rate for all applications they've received. What the Q8 visa means is that they have temporary status to come and live in Canada for 3 years, or if the duration of their passport, because the visa gets in their passport. They come, they can live, and at the same time as applying for the Q8 visa, at the very same time online with the application, they can apply for a work permit. So essentially what that means is that everyone who is coming with a Q8 visa is also coming once they land, before they land in Canada, they have already received a work permit as well. So they are, once they are here, once they do land, they are eligible right away immediately to get their social insurance number. They're eligible for OHIP in Ontario, and they also do get some temporary financial support from both the federal and provincial governments. The federal government is a one-time assistance. It's something that can, you know, as a little, something that can tide them over, something that they can maybe use to invest in like their next steps in settlement. And from the provincial government, it's temporary support, nominal, basically equivalent to what Ontario Works might be for a number of months. Jessica already went over some of these numbers. I'll just quickly reiterate from the beginning of the Q8 program up until October. As she mentioned, there's over like 600,000 plus, 623,000 applications that have been received by Ukrainians to the federal government for this Q8 visa. 305,000 applications have been approved, and 87,000 have arrived in Canada. So majority of the 87,000 are coming to Ontario. And as you can imagine, most of those are landing in Toronto or at Pearson Airport and staying within the GTA, just to give you some context. So for those Ukrainians that have the Q8 visa and are coming to Canada, some of them have connections here. As we know, we have a large Ukrainian population diaspora in Canada, in Toronto. And so fortunately, many of them have family, friends, acquaintances in the area, and they are able to have somewhere to stay when they land. Unfortunately, that's not the case for everyone, though. So many have no contacts and nowhere to stay upon arrival. In order to support this group, this population, the Canadian Red Cross is running a hotel program for offering emergency accommodation, and it's anywhere from 3 days to 2 weeks, where newcomers can stay in a hotel program. The Canadian Red Cross has a table, has staff stationed at Toronto Pearson Airport, and they are there 7 days a week. And they are there for from 3 p.m. until 3 a.m. So from all the international flights that are arriving at Pearson, they will have staff in place to meet any Ukrainian that has need for emergency accommodation, for essentially anyone that does not have anywhere to go. So they will, at the minimum, be assured that they will have a bed and a roof upon arrival. As you can imagine, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks is not really enough for them to get settled, to figure out what that next stage in their settlement process will look like. While they do keep busy during that time in terms of maybe they're opening a bank account, as I said, maybe getting their social insurance number, maybe they even start the process of going around to different neighborhoods or looking online for jobs or for apartments to rent. Very rarely do things fall into place for them perfectly within a 2-week period. Even if they do find an apartment to rent, imagine somebody arrives at the beginning of October, they immediately put themselves to looking for something. Just the nature of the rental market, things don't usually come available until maybe the 15th of the month or the 1st of the next following month. So there's a gap. There's definitely a gap between the accommodation Red Cross can provide and moving into their more permanent housing situation. And that's in a way what we imagine our host program, how it is most valuable. Thinking of it as a bridge between Red Cross emergency accommodation and their longer term housing plans. So the host program, we try to facilitate a match between a newcomer Ukrainian with a vetted host for temporary and free accommodation. I'll just quickly walk you through the steps of how we go about recruiting hosts or onboarding them onto this program. So once somebody identifies themselves as potentially interested in the program, we do a host assessment. It's a short interview where it's essentially to have a conversation and to find out what kind of accommodation is available, what kind of accommodation is being offered. So we walk through that questionnaire together. After that stage, we do require anybody that is interested to conduct a vulnerable sector screening or a vulnerable sector check from their local police department. That's anybody over the age of 18 and over. So any adults living in the home would be required to to do the vulnerable sector check. And we can also help facilitate that check. We have some partnerships with the local police in Toronto, as well as in Peel and Durham, to either facilitate getting the check done or at the minimum trying to get the fee waived, because usually there is a fee attached to that. So we try and do what we can to work with the potential host to facilitate that process. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks for the vulnerable sector check. Sometimes it can be a bit shorter, sometimes a bit quicker. It depends how the person is applying online or in person. But once the sector check, vulnerable sector check is done, and the clearance is provided, then we need to receive a copy of that clearance, and then a COSTI staff person will come out to the home to conduct an in-person site visit. And this is just to confirm that everything that was discussed over the phone with the original assessment matches with the reality of the home. So that somebody does have the bedroom available, that the furniture is there, doing a check overall of the property, making sure that there are smoke detectors and things, everything that should be in place is in place. Essentially, we want to send someone, a Ukrainian newcomer, to a home that we are confident is safe for them, is comfortable for them. And so that is essential, that we go in person to see the site ourselves. Once the site visit is done, we are ready to make a match. And so I should have mentioned, sorry, during the host assessment, we will also, as we ask questions about the accommodation, we also definitely want to hear from the host as to what they have in mind in terms of the host situation. So if they have one bedroom with a queen bed, is it a single person they would like to invite into their home? Is it a couple? Just getting some parameters in terms of what they envision or what their preference might be for a visitor in their home. So when it comes to matching, the matching stage, we will try and accommodate that, and we get in touch with the host family to propose a Ukrainian newcomer family to the host. And of course, at that point, the host can say, oh yes, this sounds like a good match, or they might have some more questions about the family, or for whatever reason, they might say it's not the right time, or no, this is actually what we had in mind. So I just want to underline that at the end of the day, nobody will be coming into your home or into anybody's home that you are not comfortable with. The final decision always lays with the host family. Once a match is made, we will find a date and a time that's agreeable for everybody when the Ukrainian newcomer can go to the home. And we have a written agreement that was drawn up. It's a host agreement. It's available in both English and Ukrainian to make sure that everyone understands it. It's about 3 or 4 pages. And the purpose of the agreement is to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So we understand that the Ukrainian newcomer has been invited into the home as a guest, and the guest also understands that they are there, that this is the host's home, and they are there on a temporary basis. No compensation should be drawn from the host the host does not take any compensation or have any expectations of compensation from the invited guest. And we also include in the agreement the duration of the hosting arrangement. So, and that is also up to the host family to decide. We have hosts that have said, oh, we're okay, you know, for somebody to come and stay for a month with us, or we are okay for somebody to come for 6 months. I just had somebody this past weekend who invited a single mom with her 2 children into their home for the remainder of the school year. So they're fine that the family stays there up until June to give some sense of stability to the kids. Whatever the host has identified as the duration, then that's the duration that will go into the agreement. And we also have many hosts that say, well, we'll put 2 months in the agreement, but we're happy, you know, to extend it if everything goes well. And if they haven't been able to find anything for them after the 2 months, then we can reconsider to extend it. So that can also be a possibility. Once somebody is matched, a Ukrainian family with a host family, we, COSTI, also have settlement workers that continue to work. They are attached to the Ukrainian family, and they will continue to work with the family, the newcomer family, to make sure the family is receiving ongoing support and settlement services. So we will, in the case of a family with children, we will make sure that they are going to be registered in the local schools. We will connect them to local organizations or communities of the library, make sure they know where their groceries, they can get their groceries. If there's a need for services or support around employment, we will connect them to employment agencies or agencies that can help them work on their CV. And then, of course, if there's need for language training, then we can connect them with the MCA that does language assessments for newcomers, and then on to language classes. So that's just to give you an idea of the work that the settlement worker will continue to do with the Ukrainian newcomer family once they are matched in a host family. I'm going to leave it there. That's my name, Tanaz Kardiwala, and my phone number is right there, 416-770-6321. You can feel free to call me, or my email as well. And I think we will put that in the chat as well in case you miss it here. Should you have any questions at all, you can definitely feel free to send me an email. And yeah, we can take it from there. We can see. I can imagine that I know there's going to be time at the end if people have questions, but don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that you would like to receive more information about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naz.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jessica. So as I mentioned, we do have 2 current hosts with us today. I will go ahead and invite Cyrus. Do you want to speak first?
Sure.
Okay.
Good
Thank you
evening,
for being here.
No problem. Good evening, everybody. My name is Cyrus, and I've been hosting Ukrainian family for about a month now. I have a second family that's been with me for about 2 weeks. It's been a great experience. It actually feels good to help people. From my perspective, it doesn't cost anything. I mean, I have a house with 3 bedrooms. My daughter moved out last year. She's in university in Waterloo. So the rooms are available and people are using it. I'm glad to have them over. I also have a lot of friends in the Ukrainian community that have been here for many years. So in a way, I can help the newcomers to get a job. The family that's staying with me, the guy actually started working today in a construction company. So they were quite happy. It's been an awesome experience. My only comment is that I have some other friends who would be willing to do the same. Their concern is that how would they communicate with somebody living with them where they don't speak Ukrainian, and I don't speak Ukrainian. I'm okay with that. I can use the phone and translate. It's a bit of a challenge, to be honest, sometimes to get the point across, but would it be possible to have some online ESL classes for them? So at least they can get some, English, even when they are staying at home and looking. I know they're active doing so many things, but I thought if they're not going to school, but maybe they could have some online classes. That's easy enough. Just a suggestion. But overall, it's been a great experience, and I would do it over and over. Not a problem.
Thank you.
No
yeah,
problem.
so I will just, Cyrus is amazing, and in case people didn't catch it, he's hosting now his second Ukrainian family. He did have
Yes.
one family first, and then he has been generous enough to take another family. And he didn't say that, but he was also pivotal in helping this gentleman to find some employment. So he's really gone out of his way, which I really appreciate. Yasmin, do you want to comment on the English classes, or should I?
We do have language classes which are offered online. They may not be ESL, but I can find out and get back to you and with more details and information for sure.
Yeah, please. That would be helpful. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A good point to bring up. So thank you. And then we also have Jennifer here, who is hosting a family as well. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we are hosting a family, and it really and truly has been one of the most amazing experiences. This was really a personal thing for us. My mother-in-law was in Germany when the Russians came through in World War II. And so there's a lot of pain and anger there. So when we heard the Russians were doing the same thing to other people, we really wanted to help. And so it's just been a really good feeling. And I've watched them. We've had them for a little over 2 months now, and they're actually going to be staying with us because we do love them so much. But just watching how when they first got here, they were shy, they were nervous, they were still a little bit scared, and but they were determined. And like your gentleman who found a job in 2 weeks, ours, he found a job and started in 3 weeks. They're really determined to get this going and keep moving forward and get the kids in school and everything. And I see them now, and they're relaxed. They smile a lot more, and it's just so nice to watch that transition.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Last weekend, I took them to Niagara Falls, and it was nice to see their expression. I mean, I've been there, I don't know how many times. And when I looked at them looking at the falls, I'm like, yeah, this place is actually awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many people on this call have been newcomer at some point. I would say a high proportion, probably. Yeah. So I think we can all relate to the idea of landing in a new country without the benefit of some family already being here. And also under circumstances where it wasn't your choosing per se.
Absolutely.
Many of them, majority of them, never imagined a few months ago that they would have to pick up and just come with 1 or 2 suitcases. So just to Jennifer's point, the idea that they can come and they can find a warm home, a safe place to stay, a bed, have a family. It is quite different than if you just start off and go into your own apartment and start renting on your own. Yeah. When you invite somebody into your home and that generosity is shown to you, and you see that these people are invested in your safety and your care, it does bring smiles. It does bring this sense that you can now relax a little bit. You don't have to carry this heavy load. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And so that's what we've heard time and time again. And I just can't thank you both enough. So
not a problem.
Yeah.
I know we've gotten at least as much out of it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's mutual.
Yeah. We're not just giving, we're also receiving.
Yeah.
That's the reality. It feels amazing to have them. Honestly, it does.
Thank you.
No problem.
So wonderful to hear the stories. So thank you so much for sharing. And I think it puts a smile on everyone's face to hear them. I wonder if there are any questions from the group. This is an opportunity to ask Cyrus, Jennifer, Tanaz, Yasmin about the program, and any of the practical pieces or any thoughts or comments that you'd like to share as well. I see Sean and Cheryl, would you like to ask a question? I see you come off mute. Thanks.
Yeah, no, just wondering, so, after the local police interview or paperwork has to be completed, what's the process to initiate this and get it started? Do we reach out to yourselves directly by email or by a phone call, or how do we initiate this?
So once the process is completed, the staff, Tanaz, the manager, would be in touch with you, and you will notify us everything is clear, and then the matching process will begin.
So is the first step to just initiate the police check, or do we contact you first?
The first step is for the manager who will get in touch with you and have a discussion and talk about, what you can offer, what you have, for how long the duration, and any other support services that you can provide. After that, when you agree to that, then the next step is to do the VSS check. Once it's completed, you'll notify us, and then the matching period will begin. We'll try and find you an appropriate family that could be housed in the space that you have to offer us.
And what's the approximate timeline, roughly?
From the time that you reach out to having a family in your home, really the only variable is the screening, the police screening. The initial assessment is quick. The site visit can happen quickly. It's only a question of how long the vulnerable sector check can happen. I know people who have gone to the police, local police in Brampton, and she got it immediately, like right at that moment, she got her VSS clearance. And then others do it either online or through the mail, and it can take weeks. Sometimes the VSS, the police ask for an additional fingerprinting, and that can take like another month. So that's the only variable.
Okay.
So sorry, and because I was frozen, the initial step, if you are interested, you can just email me directly, and then I will get in touch with you, and we can schedule a time to do the assessment.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I will tell you, it can go quite quick. So we were sort of waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Then like, okay, everything's here. We're ready. And literally she called me the next day and said, okay, can you take someone today?
Oh. Oh, I should also say, yes, well, Jessica and I both gave some numbers, some figures of how many have applied and the total that have arrived. It has been a very busy fall. There was a little lull in the summer months, but now since September, October have been extremely busy. Once again, they are not coming as refugees, which means under the Q8 visa, they come in, they come on private flights. They pay for their own airfare. And now in the fall, as the prices have dropped a little bit, we have noticed that there has been a big uptick, and approximately there's 500 Ukrainians arriving each day. So yeah, there is need. I will just highlight that there is a huge need for a lot of different solutions. One of them is the host program. So every little bit counts. If somebody can only do a couple of weeks, we're grateful for a couple of weeks. If somebody wants to do longer, we're happy with that too. Every little bit counts.
Okay. Thank you.
Gurjit, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I was just wondering, I travel for work. I'm away for about a week at a time sometimes. How does it work? Like if there's no one else at the house, and I'm out of town and there's a family there, what are the parameters around that?
That's for you to figure. That's your comfort level. So we do have people in similar situations who do travel. I think Jennifer was just traveling. And I mean, probably you want to take time to get to know the family and to feel comfortable with the family. And if you reach that point and you need to travel and you're okay with them being in your home, then that's fine. If you think that you might not be comfortable in that situation, either we would have to work around your travel schedule and make it like shorter stints of hosting in your home, or yeah, we would just try and work with whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment. I currently have a Ukrainian refugee or displaced person at my house, and we're really kind of crawling through a bunch of resources and trying to find things for her. She's 38 years old, but I have to say, if there's folks out there, the Presto program has offered a discount. The YMCA she just got a membership to the gym there for 25% of what the normal cost is. We brought her over to the Ukrainian Canadian Parachute organization to get her clothing. There was quite a lineup, but it's at North Queen, where I don't know if people are familiar with that, but where Sale department store used to be, or outdoors store, 160 Queen. I was hoping today to maybe get some more information about language and ESL, because she needs to work on her English. I think it's important, especially because she's probably not going to go into a labor job. She's going to need language skills.
Thank you, Hillary. Yeah, sorry, that's not what we were covering today, but if you email me, I can connect this lady who's staying with you with a settlement worker, and then she will be, and so our settlement workers speak Ukrainian. So she will be able to connect with her and guide her in the right direction. Okay.
The other thing was that, you know, if she decides that she's going to move on or move out, then we might be able to host another individual through your organization.
That would be very welcomed. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hillary and Tanaz. There's also interest in a contact to learn about volunteering for English classes with COSTI. So Tanaz, are you the best person for that as well?
Yeah.
I'm not the best person, but I can be the first contact, and then I will forward it along.
Super, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? I think it's really great to have the hosts here as well to hear about their experience. So if there are any practical questions, welcoming that as well. In the meantime, I'm going to turn to Sean, and as you percolate with questions, feel free to put them in the chat box and we can answer those. And Sean's just going to share a bit about Volunteer MBC and some volunteering opportunities there as well.
Thanks, everybody. I'm really excited to be here tonight. My name is Sean Abbasi. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Greater Toronto Area Volunteer Centers. I'm also joined by Karina Santos of Volunteer Markham, and I'll talk a little bit about Volunteer MBC first. I'll speak a little bit on behalf of Volunteer Toronto, and then Karina will get to close out by telling you a little bit about what's going on at Volunteer Markham. So just a little bit about our center. So we're a volunteer center. So a volunteer center, if you're not familiar with that idea of a volunteer center, we work in between residents and of the community, anyone who's in the community, and organizations, not-for-profit organizations. So in our case, we're a registered charity that's been around since 2008. We're a member of the Ontario Volunteer Center Network, just like Volunteer Toronto and Volunteer Markham, and part of Volunteer Canada. We have, in our case, a couple hundred organizations that are our members. So when we have members, we take not-for-profit organizations as members to make connections. And so we're a service provider, mobilizing thousands of volunteers to the causes that need them. And we're a capacity builder around volunteer management and learning services for those organizations. And we bring people together around shared values. So I'm really grateful that all of you are here because it's speaking to the values that we espouse of caring, especially. And so you'll see there, it tells you that our vision is to improve lives through volunteerism, where our idea is that volunteerism, even if you're choosing to be a volunteer host or any other type of volunteer, it benefits, of course, people who access those services that you're volunteering for, but also benefits you as a volunteer. And I think we've heard that from some of our hosts, how it impacted them. So we basically have 4 domains of service. We have a referral service, and that's what I'll kind of touch on today, where we connect volunteers to the causes that need them, and we help organizations recruit those volunteers. We offer a learning center. So we train volunteers, volunteers who serve on boards for nonprofits, and we provide training to not-for-profit staff, and we bring them together to collaborate. And then we really try to let people know what is going on in the nonprofit sector. So demystify it, make it so that it's not so secret, and make it so that there are less barriers to volunteering. So if you're finding it challenging to volunteer, or some positions are not as accessible, or you just can't find a position, that's where we love to come in. And then we like to recognize volunteers, thank them, and show people how it matters. So just briefly, what I'd like to basically tell you is visit volunteernbc.org, where you can create your own volunteer profile and apply directly to positions. I'll put these links in the chat, so no worries, like you can access them, and we'll also include them in a follow-up email to the participants today. But you can also browse the positions that are specifically focused on serving newcomers at this link. What we do essentially is we invite you to create your very own volunteer profile. When you do that, you get to indicate your availability, your interests, your skills. And then based on that, we give you recommendations, or you can search and find positions like you might do if you were looking for a job and you put in different parameters there. But in this case, they're all volunteer positions. Some of the key roles that are being recruited for right now that have touch points with this cause. Certainly, there's a lot of mentorship required. Newcomers to Canada of all stripes, but especially the wave of incoming newcomers means that people need a bit of guidance. And I think we've heard a little bit about how COSTI and some other organizations are trying to offer that mentorship support, which is fantastic. Across the GTA, there's a major need for volunteer drivers. So if you drive and you think that you can spare some time, there are multiple driver positions that are posted across each of the volunteer centers to move food and essentials to different places. Sometimes access is limited. So that's a major need that continues, and we're definitely appreciative of anyone who's able to do that. And another one that's very significant is at the food banks. There's a great deal of support required there. These are just a few. As time goes on, we expect that other positions will continue to emerge, and priorities will continue to evolve. But those are 3 that I wanted to highlight because there's multiple positions of those natures on our system, and you're free to kind of create your profile and browse. And I'll also put my contact information in it toward the end, where you can kind of get connected to Volunteer NBC. And we really like to help you. Like it doesn't have to be the case where you navigate it all on your own. You can get an advisor to help you search. In the same vein, other volunteer centers make connections. And while they're not able to join us today, they did make a point to let me know at Volunteer Toronto of what their offerings are, and some of the ways that you can connect. So if you go to volunteertoronto.ca, if you're in the Toronto area, if you're in Peel, Mississauga, Brampton, or Caledon, you can go to volunteernbc.org. But if you're in the main area of Toronto, then you can visit volunteertoronto.ca, and you can actually search as a category for settlement and newcomers to find volunteer opportunities supporting the Ukrainian newcomer support effort, as well as others. But they also have a dedicated page on Support Ukraine, and I'll also include this link in the chat shortly. And then last point about Volunteer Toronto, simply that you can book an appointment with an advisor similar to us, and you can even contact them at advisors@volunteertoronto.ca. So Volunteer Toronto is a very large volunteer center. They have lots of opportunities. So if you're in Toronto, if you're thinking, maybe I'm not yet ready to be a host, or that's not something that's an accessible opportunity for me in my setup, there we definitely need other types of supports to make this effort work. I'm going to invite Karina Santos to say a little bit about Volunteer Markham, and then we'll take some questions if there's any leftover time. But Karina, over to you.
Thanks, Sean. So hi, everyone. My name is Karina Santos, and I am a community connector for Volunteer Markham. I just want to thank COSTI for having me here tonight, because as a daughter of immigrant parents who heavily relied on nonprofit services such as COSTI to help settle them into Canada, it really is an honor to be here. And I want to say hi to all the hosts and all the new Ukrainians here tonight. Who are we? So similar to Volunteer MBC, we are a volunteer platform, and we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving York Region and surrounding communities. So yes, we still do serve Toronto organizations and citizens, and we provide community information and connect residents to volunteer opportunities. And all in all, we help bring together organizations and our citizens. Our mission statement is to build a stronger, more thoughtful community through innovative programs that inspire, inform, and connect volunteers with the organizations that need them. And our vision is to grow volunteering in York Region by inspiring citizens and connecting the community. So why volunteer? Whether you're here tonight wanting to volunteer for yourself, or you know a Ukrainian who would like to volunteer, or who has kids who would like to volunteer, volunteering, I think, is just, it's something everyone should do. And I just feel like it's life-changing. You get to meet new people in your community, you get to know your community and its resources. You connect with people who share the same value of helping others in community. And one of the best parts is you get to network and grow your skills. So why volunteer through Volunteer Markham? So Volunteer Markham, we have an array of opportunities that cover multiple different interests, whether you want to work with animals, seniors, youth. We have a volunteer opportunity for everyone of all ages. And I want to quickly highlight some of the current volunteer opportunities that I think would be of benefit to people here. And once again, these opportunities are great for youth or adults. So if you know any youth, whether they are newcomers or whether they are Canadian, we do have a youth team called Change the World. And the CTW Markham, it's a youth executive team here at Volunteer Markham, and it's 100% volunteer youth volunteer run, which is amazing. I think last year we had 2,000 students from all over the GTA volunteer for this team, and they do all the organization, they do all the meetings, they handle all the volunteering and logistics. It's pretty incredible what these kids do, and basically they just come up with meaningful opportunities for the youth all over Toronto, whether it's in person or virtual. And the impact that these students have made in different parts of York Region has been really inspiring and incredible to watch. And I think the minimum age you have to be is 12 for this, so it does start young. So again, for the hosts, if they have any young Ukrainian, if your Ukrainian families have any kids that want to get involved in this, I think this is a really great way, and they could be located anywhere in the GTA. So the Cross-Cultural Community Services Association, this is also a really great youth committee or youth opportunity. It is a youth committee, and it's actually for newcomer youth. So it's a great way for the newcomer youth to develop their leadership skills or participate in leadership skills. And if I don't really want to speak too much on it because it is not our program, but it's the Cross-Cultural Community Services Association's program. And we work with them for years, and they're a really great organization. But if you know any youth that would like to participate in this or who would be a great participant, you could go ahead and visit www.tccsa.on.ca. And for adults, these opportunities I'm about to mention are great for youth or adults. So we have Mentality in Me. The minimum age is 12. It's a fully remote position, and they do need volunteer writers and collaborators. Mentality in Me focuses on mental health in Ontario. There is the Karen Share Thrift Shop, where they just need cashiers, pricers, and sorters. Training is included. It is a Monday to Saturday position, early afternoons, minimum age 12, but it's a really good introduction to, again, if anyone wanted to get involved in retail, if a newcomer wanted to get involved in retail and just grow their resume. And then we have the Women's Support Network of Ontario. They need a bunch of volunteers right now, especially with the holidays coming up. this is a really meaningful position because they do need crisis line support and fundraising volunteers. And what's great is they advertise it as a really great opportunity for newcomers or new Canadians. Unfortunately, though, you do have to be 18 plus, so that is something to consider, but I promise it's a very meaningful position and role. And then lastly, I have the Canadian Cancer Society. They are looking for Wheels of Hope drivers just for transporting clients and patients. Training is fully included. You do have to be 18 plus for this, but they do have flexible daytime shifts. So to see a full list of current opportunities, you just have to sign up on our Volunteer Markham website. It's just down below there, volunteermarkham.ca. And from here, we have hundreds of organizations that are registered with us, and everyone can see the open opportunities. And if you sign up, you'll be able to see the future opportunities. Of course, there is an array of different opportunities for everyone, young and old. So I do highly encourage everyone to sign up, especially if you're in the York Region area. And lastly, I just want to mention some events because ESL tended to be a topic of tonight's conversation. So coincidentally, one Hub Growth organization reached out to us just yesterday and told us that they're providing ESL courses to expand vocabularies every Tuesdays in November. It's completely free and it is virtual. So hosts, if you wanted to sign up or if you wanted to tell your families that you're hosting about One Hub Growth organization, then please, go ahead and you can visit One Hub Growth organization site for these free ESL courses every week. And
sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Sorry, Karina, I'm just gonna have to stop us now, just as we're reaching the time.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you sharing, and we can also share by email after. To those attendees who have mentioned that they are interested in future opportunities and communications. So if you want to put your email in the chat box, people can follow up with you. And I just want, as we're closing out, there was one more question from Victoria, and she was asking if there are Ukrainian speaking volunteers who might be able to help with medical or dental appointments. So maybe Tanaz or Yasmin, last word on that piece, just as we close out the session.
Sure. Hi, sorry, from Victoria, volunteers to help with appointments. So this is for a Ukrainian newcomer who doesn't have English, a level of English, and wants support during appointments or something?
Yeah, Victoria, do you want to ask the question?
Sure, thank you for the opportunity. I myself am a Ukrainian Canadian. I was born here, but I really do appreciate all of your work. It really goes without saying. What I've been noticing a lot of is the Ukrainian newcomers, they have the language barrier. And when they're trying to make the appointments with the doctors or the dentists, there's a lot of barriers due to language. They don't have it. So are there possibilities to have volunteers in the dentist offices or the doctor's offices, or if there's some support that we can provide for them? Because it is really limited to have them just go to Ukrainian doctors or dentists.
We have a volunteer matching program, and we have matched one family with a volunteer to help them through this Together project. We have, through our partnership with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and the Ukrainian Immigrant Aid Society, a lot of volunteers. So if there are people who are interested, we can connect them to their organization and they can assist with that.
Thank you.
I can just add that, the volunteer centers are there to recruit volunteers, and we do have skilled volunteers, but we usually connect them through additional organizations like COSTI or organizations that can support them in terms of connecting them to where the needs are. So it's less of a frontline action. So, but if you know somebody who wants to be a volunteer, for sure, connect them directly with Volunteer BC or Volunteer Markham or Volunteer Toronto. And then as far as, and then we would definitely have COSTI and some of the other agencies benefit from their skill sets as well. But it's usually not the case where somebody will volunteer in the doctor's office or in a private environment. It'll be the case where they're connected to a not-for-profit organization like COSTI, and then they will manage and support them. So that's how usually that side of things works. But any questions about volunteerism, you can happily reach us at our websites or contact information that was provided, and we can discuss it further.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I think this was a really heartwarming session. So really appreciate everyone's effort in for the speakers, the hosts who shared their experiences, and for everyone who is interested in attending and taking the time. We're thinking of maybe hosting something like this again, maybe virtual or maybe in a different form. So if you have any feedback, we'll be emailing out to the attendees, and we'd love to hear, like, would your friends or other family members be interested in this type of session? Would love to hear any feedback on it. But again, thank you so much for your time. And maybe I'll ask the speakers to hang back. And again, really lovely to have everyone together this evening. Have a